Jennifer Goldstein. I'm known as the Senior Empowering Guru. I help seniors understand whether they should stay in their home and how to do that safely, or whether it's time to go and how to do that safely as well, and to get the most amount of money for their home. And I'm very proud to introduce my speaker today, Dr. Regina Lark, who's the CEO of A Clear Path. So Dr. Lark, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first, myself loves being with you, Jennifer. Thank you so much for inviting me to have this conversation with you today. 12 years ago this month, actually, I started my company, A Clear Path, and we started out as a one-woman shop, decluttering and organizing, but over time, we just added services that really allow us to focus on the older adult market. And so we do a lot of work to help folks declutter and downsize and just to think differently about their space and their stuff. So the work is very rewarding. I've got 12 employees and we cover pretty much all of Southern California.
Wow, you've grown quite a bit over 12 years.
Quite a bit.
Congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you.
So Regina, let me ask you a question first that's always, I get asked this all the time when I'm talking to seniors. What is clutter really about?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think a lot of clutter is delayed decisions. We have a hard time trying to decide what we may need someday. And we have a hard time letting go of what has come into our life from the past. And it's a challenge. You know, a lot of this, again, it's emotional decisions. And it has a lot to do with time management, you know, our relationship with time. So where order and tidiness live in our brain is the part of our brain called the executive function. And it's right up here in the front. And it's the newest part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex.
Okay. As
we evolved, and now humans now have this part of their brain. That part of the brain, when it's all firing on all pistons, allows us to be on time. It allows us to emotionally manage. It allows us to process and plan and sequence. And if we're dealing with everything from ADHD to a cancer diagnosis, and we've got chemo brain, we've heard that term, chemo brain. When we find ourselves in a big life transition, like the loss of our spouse, we may have injured ourselves. Anything that comes up, we may be experiencing anxiety or depression. All of these changes in our bodies and in our emotional well-being, honestly, we will tend toward more clutter, because keeping clutter at bay requires emotional management. It requires a good relationship with time, because you have to know how much time you're going to devote to clear a space. And not only that, you have to know how long it may take you to do something. So if you don't have that internal clock, if you're on a lot of medication, or you are just having a hard time emotionally, and may have had a hard time emotionally for a long period of time, chances are you're going to have a lot of clutter, generally speaking.
Right. It's so interesting that you talk about that, because I think you're so right. You know, if we're not clear in our head, and you talked about the frontal cortex, if we're not clear in our head, we can't be clear in our life. Wouldn't you agree with that statement?
I do. And I think a lot of us, and I think that's a very good observation. A lot of us are not, oh my gosh, we're not very curious about why we're not taking care of business. We're not very curious about why we're holding on to something we may need someday. We don't know what someday has to look like. And we don't know what is the terrible thing that's going to happen if someday comes and I don't have this. So the clutter in our brain creates these questions that we don't tend to ask or answer. So I think a lot of it is brain-based. In fact, Jennifer, I'll tell you something funny. One of the first things we declutter whenever we go into a new space are all the books that they have on how to get organized. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Yes, because the books were written, they're written for people who, I mean, I can open one of those books, and if I see that folding the item in a particular way makes sense to me, and because I have good time management skills, I'll be able to fold it that way for the rest of my life. Most people who need professional services, especially when it comes to downsizing and moving, they are going to be really challenged. They may see that it's a good way to fold it, but if they don't have good time management skills, it's probably not going to get folded that way again until they read another book.
My goodness. It's interesting about you cleaning out the organizational books first. So let me ask you another question. Is there any good reason to hold on to anything? Like a wedding gown or some of the awards or things like that? Well,
here's the thing about our things.
Way to put it.
I find it very curious that I would say the majority of things that come through our front door does not have an exit strategy. So we bring the wedding gown in, we bring the bowling trophies in, we bring in cards and letters, we bring in tchotchkes, we bring in clothes that sometimes stay in the closet with the tags on. So at first blush, my thought is, once it comes in, if there's no exit strategy, it's going to stay. So I personally, I want to hold on to the things. So the things that I hold on to, and holding on or letting go, very personal decisions. And I will say this, I don't think there's any rules to organizing. I think there are principles. So one of my organizing principles is I don't like to be inconvenienced. Well, in order for me to not be inconvenienced, I need to be able to access my stuff when I need it and put it back when I'm done with it. Because I'm a very busy person and I've got a rapid lifestyle, even in COVID. I personally don't want to take the time to hunt something down that's inconvenient for me. So it's my own self-imposed rule. I don't want to be inconvenienced. I also don't want anything. It's like, what has earned the right to live with me? I pay good rent. I don't want to live with anything unless it's earned the right. So what's the right? It has to feed me emotionally, aesthetically, or it has to feed me intellectually, or it has to feed my tummy. So it really narrows, the field of what has the right to live with me. So
interesting.
Again, these are personal decisions. I just heard somebody the other day, well, what do you do with old greeting cards? And I think the person who sent me the card, I bet they didn't think I was going to hold on to it for the rest of my life. So again, it's becoming curious. Why do I hold on to this? How does it serve me?
Right.
Yeah.
I guess it's asking those questions, which that's probably what we don't do. We just bring it in, but we don't ask ourselves the questions that you were just talking about because it's not, we haven't been taught to do that.
You're absolutely
right. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a lot to that. I know you do a lot of writing and a lot of blogging. So I was at your website yesterday and I saw two things that I wanted you to talk about with us today. And the first one is the 5 rules for downsizing. Can you share with us what those are?
I have rules.
That's what you put. Oh, yes. 5 rules for downsizing right here.
You just threw me a curveball. I would have to look at that. How does it start?
Let me share. Okay, let me share. You were talking about downsizing for seniors. It's a very stressful and laborious task.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the first thing that you said is to develop a plan. And I think it goes back to what you were talking about earlier, about when you bring things in, have them plan on going out too.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Developing a plan is, for example, I had a call yesterday from an older adult, and she's in Riverside, and she is looking to purchase a house in Arizona. And so I was going to go out there, but she sent me another email. The purchase fell through. I wrote back. I said, it would be great for you to start your plan anyway. So the plan includes, what kind of help are you going to need? Do you have family members? Do you have friends? Do you need to bring in a professional organizer? If you don't have a lot of clutter, we just need to have movers. So really taking an assessment and using your life experiences, using, all the things that you've done in your life to get you to this point. Get quiet and really take stock, because you've moved before. We've all moved at least once or more. So reflect on those moves. What made them excellent and what made them harrowing? What made them, what made it so that you said, I am never going to move again? So take stock, work out a plan. What's next on this?
Well, what goes along with that, and this is what I tell seniors all the time, figure out where you're going to go and consider the space. That was number 2.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And then number 3, eliminate duplicates. How many crock pots do we really need in our kitchen, right?
And that's looking at, it's, I tell people all the time, quantify what is enough. And to that point, it's how is your, if you're an older adult and you've decided that you're going to downsize, well, downsizing isn't just about possessions, it's about your new lifestyle. So what is your new lifestyle going to be? And if you're going into, say, an assisted living community, and you can stay in, you can live in the community over the long haul. So at the beginning, you're independent, you're ambulatory, you may have a small kitchenette to make your own meals, but chances are you're not going to be entertaining for 12 anymore.
Right.
So your lifestyle, along with your possessions, along with the space that is available to you now.
That's so true. And I think this next one, step number 4 that you recommend, is so important. And I don't think we as adults, or even we as seniors, don't realize, is to donate. I think we don't think in our head somebody else is going to love this. But I think if we thought about it and said, oh, I could get rid of this because I want it to go to a good home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then it's easier to let it go, because why keep something you're not using? If your thought process was, somebody else can really enjoy this, why don't I let it go?
Yeah, and it makes us feel good that somebody is taking possession of something that may have served us really well. Right.
And your memories go with it. Obviously, whoever takes it, if it's at the donation center, isn't going to know that, but in a way, you know that. You bless, as I say, you bless and release.
Yeah.
And you have that good feeling that you're putting it in somebody else's hands and they will take care of it because they need it.
Yeah.
That's what donation centers are all about, right?
Yeah. So one tip would be, as somebody is starting to think about this downsizing process, I encourage folks to put a bag or a box right by their front door or near the door closest, the door that they use to get to their car. So they may be by the garage or the side door, whatever, but put a box or a bag closest to the door that you exit. And then as you go through your day, you'll see something, put it in the box.
Huh.
It doesn't have to be a big thought out thing, but now
Right.
you've got the plan, you have an idea of the size you're going into, you've come to understand that your lifestyle is going to be still as rich as you can make it, but probably not service for 12. And
I love that.
you keep looking around and you think, okay, I don't know if I'm going to do any snowboarding because I'm moving to Arizona.
Right.
And so, you just you just start thinking more along of what's next for your life, and also how do you want to live your life in your
I think that box is a great idea. I'm going to go do that at my house.
I am so pared down. I always have a bag by my front door.
That's a great tip. And last but not least, you mentioned the extra cash that you can get through selling your items. Who couldn't use more cash? I mean, 9 crockpots, you might as well sell 8 of them, right? Make some cash.
Well, and what's been fun, my company started a new service about a year or 2 ago, and we're doing online estate sale auctions. So one way, back up, Regina, if you're thinking that a move is very overwhelming, then you're thinking maybe I'll call in professionals to help. If you're going to call in professionals, so I'm a professional organizer, and people call us to help them declutter and pack and move. If we're moving from 1,200, 1,800, 2,000 square feet into 400 or 600 square feet, that's a lot of stuff that we're not going to take with us. So we started these online auctions, and a team will come in and they spend 1 day to catalog, and then the auction is live for 10 days, and people bid on your items, and then they pay to purchase their item, and then they get information on how to pay for it and when to pick it up. By the time the estate sale is over, not only have you relieved yourself of the burden of what the heck to do with all of these things, but you recouped some of the money that you spent on professionals anyway. And if you got a lot of stuff, you probably made some money on it. So you might come in close, you might mitigate the pain, break even, or make money. But again, and it is to the point you made earlier, it keeps it out of a landfill. It's going to be purchased and used by people who really want it. And it's just a great way to relieve yourself of the burden of too much stuff.
You know what? I think that is the greatest thing you started, and it was just a year ago. And you had no idea that COVID was coming along. But I bet it's just been so much more valuable for seniors having this way of having the estate sale. Wouldn't you agree with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think it. I think that will only get bigger.
Yeah, we've been doing these sales almost every weekend since June.
Really?
Yeah. And this
So
is
it is
also
very
great
popular
for family members. One of the things that we're seeing, especially with COVID, is that, a loved one passed and the family has not been able to get to the house and start dismantling the estate. And so we are getting a lot of work from family members who live out of state. And wow, okay. Someone is at my door. I am so sorry.
Okay, this is called going live. This is what happens. I love it.
Okay, this is going live.
Perfect.
I'm back.
So finish that thought, because I think that is very valuable for our listeners. During COVID, what are you doing? How is that going? And you say people from out of state are calling you because they can't get to their home,
No. So what the practice we've developed is this: if If they can't get to Southern California, we put on our masks and gloves. We would meet. So if they say they have contracted with you to sell the house, but it's still full, and it's been months since they brought you in on the project, but you haven't been able to do anything. So I would say, Jennifer, we'll talk to the family, get me in the house, and then I'll FaceTime with the family. And we'll just walk around in my gloves and mask. We walk around and take stock of what's there. And often I will get a list of things that they want shipped home. So we'll get those shipped home, and then the rest of the tangible personal property is now ready for the max sold sale, and then we'll get that going. If they're in Southern California, we'll meet them at the house. Again, everything we're doing, and I know we got this from the California Association of Realtors, actually, what we call our COVID form. So we're, how to adopt COVID protocol when we're in people's houses. If they're in Southern California and they're starting to get family members who are having conversations about the division of property, then we can meet them at the house, again, do a site visit, and then come up with the plan for getting the house ready. Because really what we're doing is we're getting the house ready for sale or lease. And
right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, something lighthearted, because I love this story. Tell us about the 300,000 things.
Oh, Jennifer.
I love it. It's so great.
It haunts me.
But it's so true.
It's so, when I started organizing 12 years ago, I read organizing books, like we all do. And something that I read stuck in my head, and it was, most homes have 300,000 things. And I thought, wow, that is so interesting. And 2 years later, after I read this statistic, I got a call from an LA Times journalist. And the journalist asked me this question, and I said, well, the average home has 300,000 things. That becomes law. If you were to type 300,000, if you were to type in a Google search engine, 300,000, 300, comma, 000, you will see that Regina Lark has been quoted all for 10 years. Okay. Well, that was New York Times. I think it was 2011 or 2012. Year or so later, I get an email from somebody who said, really interesting quote, where did you find it? And I said, just 1 minute. And I turned around in my bookcase, and I'm thinking, okay, what book is it in? And then I'm pulling my books out of my shelf going, where the hell is this book? Jennifer, I could not find this anywhere. And I wrote an email, and it started out, it is with chagrin that I write this. 6 months later, I get another email. Where is this number from? So I ended up having to create a template letter. And the closest I could get to, and I scoured this book. UCLA Center for Family Living did a 10-year longitudinal study on the 21st century American family, it was called. The 21st century family. And they had, the demographic was married couple with children, but one of the children had to be like 9 or 11, so that they may have these same types of stuff. When you look at the pictures, you just go, oh yeah, there's 300,000 things in these, it was everything from Barbies and books to reams of paper to office supplies, underwear, everything. But the number 300,000 isn't in that book. Then I did, then my office manager and I at the time, I said, okay, well, just start counting. What do you have in your house? So we concluded that the average household has 30,000 to 300,000. But I do every year. I probably get 7 to 10 emails. Even, oh, this was hysterical. One of my friends who knows this story, she was looking at like a Facebook Live thing, and the minimalists were doing it. And these are two really popular guys. And scrolling across the screen was the average home has 300,000 things. And we're dying. We're thinking, oh, the minimalists didn't do their homework. You know?
Oh, you'll go down in history for the 300,000 things. But you know, I think you're right. And I'm sure one day you will find where that quote came from. But just if you think about it, we have thousands and thousands of things in our home.
We do.
And again, I think it goes back to the very beginning. It clutters our mind with all this stuff.
Yeah.
And if we just start doing a few things at a time, like you say, put the box at the front door, you know, and you will feel such a relief as you just start.
It's a relief. It lowers your anxiety level.
Yeah.
It brings your blood pressure down. I mean, it has so many physiological benefits to it. It's stunning.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest answer to getting it done is the psychological benefits. We always think of it as hurting ourselves because we can't emotionally let go of something, but the psychological benefits by doing it is immense.
Right.
You know? And I think that's the hardest part that I have when I talk to seniors is helping them understand how much better they will feel if they just start doing something.
Yeah, because once it helps to confirm your decision to move forward. Now you're taking some action here instead of up in your head. Yes,
and you're so right. It's that moving forward once you start doing it, rather than just saying tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow.
Or my favorite is later, because I've never seen later on any calendar.
Okay, I haven't either.
It doesn't exist. So I used to threaten clients with, okay, I'm going to put later on our calendar twice this month. And I'm going to come over like, later, let's do this.
That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. Well, Regina, this has been so much fun. But I want to let our listeners know too, you do a newsletter. And I was looking at it. You also have, when they sign up for your newsletter, you can send them a downsizing checklist.
Yes.
Which I thought was really, really valuable. So tell everybody, because it's a very simple email. So tell everybody that's listening today what your email is so they can write it down really quick, or go really slow so they can write it down. Because I think it's very valuable to get that checklist and really to read some of your blogs that you do.
Thank you. Okay. So the email is Regina, Regina, at the letter A, the word clear, CLEAR, next word path, PATH. So Regina at aclearpath.net.
.net.
Yeah.
All right. So Regina at aclearpath.net. I think that's a great name for your business because it is a clear path.
You know, I love the clear path.
And that's how they can remember it, aclearpath.net. I think that's wonderful. Well, this has been so fun, Regina. We're going to have to do it again.
I love talking with you.
I love talking with you, and you've got so many great ideas. I learn every time I talk to you. So now I just got to go home and implement one of them today.
Right by the door.
I'm putting that box by the door.
All right.
All right.
Happy Friday. Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.